And there I am. So just a little bit of music from my dear mother and the band when I was growing up. So I'll play that in the background while I'm talking tonight for the first little bit here. And very special song. It was came out when I was born, and it was one of my mom's favorite songs to sing. And just reminds me of my roots. Come from a very humble background, starving artists, if you will, and living in a van with traveling in a van with a group of hippie musicians, about as far as you can get from banking, right? So those were my beginnings, and look where we are now. So tonight, I'm going to try to keep it simple. I'm going to tell you a little bit about about Spock and just what it is. So quick note, this is for kind of going back to the basics for some of the people who are new here. So what is it? Spock is a digital asset or a digital commodity, previously known and also known as a hybrid utility and meme coin. It's launched just over 45 days ago now. Since then, we've accomplished a lot. We have built two new websites from scratch. The white paper, done 20 plus live streams, 2 major live events, including the Senate Banking Committee, the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee attending and speaking as his office, speaking as our keynote for the Neobank conference. Additionally, we put out the MBC 20 and the MBC 20 protocol, which is the first machine-to-machine protocol for agentic commerce, and the X402 protocol, which is the infrastructure for payments. 5 patents. Yesterday, I uploaded yesterday was a deep dive into development. So there is a lot of, so I was a little bit quieter, still a lot going on, but over the weekend and yesterday, a lot of development was going into Brok. Brok stands for the Bankers Revolutionary Operations Keiretsu. And and so I basically have uploaded, it's a whole agentic stack that's focused on finance, commerce, accounting, everything that a banker needs to know to evaluate loans according to their own internal policies, external regulations, everything that's relevant for loan underwriting baked in, including my books, my patents, the Ingram evaluation matrix, the score. All of that is built in now to Brok's database. So that was quite an undertaking. I'd love to release it, but I want to get it a little bit tighter and make sure everything works really well. And but we will get it. We'll get a basic, probably a Telegram interface initially, and versus a full-blown app. That seems to be the way things are doing, similarly to OpenClaw, where you can access the model through a texting app. So that is that's where we're at with Brok. So a lot of development work has been going into Brok, which is the face for all of the other elements: the Neoscore, the Ingram evaluation matrix, the machine-to-machine commerce, the whole bit. So also, just to recap, just continuing with the recap, 45 days ago now, we started from zero, basically. Hopefully that wasn't too distracting. Yeah, it was a little blast from the past. So we started zero basically 45 days ago, and you've seen our market cap go from 20 to 40 to 60, a big, well, a little flurry now compared to where we're at of activity in that first day. And I just want to remind people that especially the newbies, what people that have been around this space know that there are very, very few coins that make it past a day, right? So we're into 45 days and building strong. So something to be really, really proud of. And we've blown past 3 million. We hit a million market cap. That was pretty big. And 2 million, blew past 3 million, and now we're into the 4 million range. So quite extraordinary. And we're really, really just getting started. We've had over 15,000 transactions, over 1,000 buyers, $50,000 in volume recently per day. So, and also one thing I want to say is that the goal here is it transcends. It's not just about the ROI and the market cap on this amazing token, which is core to our mission to really upgrade banking and bring banking into the singularity economy to prepare us for the future. This is a mission, and I'll throw in the disclaimer. We always have the disclaimer. This is not investment advice. What this actually is, you could consider it to be investment activism. Putting funding and supporting this project is funding another advocate, a voice that will be strongly advocating going forward for crypto overall. So and Spock specifically, but for crypto. And today is a big milestone for the industry with Warsh, the voted in. He's now our first vote, so he's in. It looks like as the new incoming federal chairman. So that's a big win for crypto as well. So I thought of another way to explain what Spock is. So for a lot of folks, meme coins don't make sense to them because they don't do anything. Spock is the opposite. Basically, the meme coin is, it's a popularity contest almost, right? It's the popular, timely, catchy phrases, news, figures of the day that are really come and go very, very quickly, and it's fun. The half-life of these projects has been getting shorter and shorter and shorter. We're completely opposite to that. Well, and maybe I should say completely opposite to that. We're expanding on that in a quantum fashion, in a quantum leap. So we actually like the meme coin aspect of the catchy, culturally relevant iconography, and that's what Spock is and represents. So we like that. That helps propagate the ideas that we stand for and support. However, the utility, this project has real utility, and so I want people to keep that in mind. We've got the fun part, but we are building something here that is, as I just recapped, 2 new websites from scratch, new protocol, 5 patents, Brok, the agentic face for this whole stack of super intelligence, your super robo genius banker, private banker, all of these things. So it's a completely different pattern, a completely different paradigm. So there's not really anything else to compare us to on Pump Fund. We are in a completely new category. We are a digital asset, but the way that we're blending utility and meme is with our patented intellectual property, is unprecedented. So here's a really simple way that I thought of today to put Spock in a box for you. So you could think of this project as PayPal plus Visa plus Equifax combined. Now we're talking about the utility. We all know who Spock is, and this project is logical in all of its parts, in the way that it all fits together. And as more elements of this project unfold, you'll see there's a cohesive plan from every piece, every part of it, not all of which has even been revealed yet, but you'll see it all fits together. But for now, where we're at is you could think of it as PayPal plus Visa plus Equifax. So what do those things represent? PayPal is a mechanism for value exchange. That's the fundamental basis for banking and for money. Is effective transfer, value exchange, and the ability to store value and exchange across time and space. That's really it's very simple and yet it is quite complex as well. It took basically the neobanks, the book Neobank, Navigating the Future of Banking. The whole first portion of that is looking at the history of money and what money actually is, what characteristics make good money, and that's versus we've used shells, we've used salt, we've used all kinds of different notches on sticks, even, right? Have been different forms of money throughout history. But now we have a very unique opportunity to use technology to provide the most fungible, flexible, useful, convenient, scarce, useful form of value exchange and stored value that the world has ever seen. So that's the PayPal component. It's a way for people to think of it. We all know what PayPal is. So Spock provides a system for value exchange, and not just for humans, for machines as well. So that's the future-proof part. That's built into this coin from the design, from the get-go. Is the first coin, the first token designed for machines first. Okay, so talked a lot about that at first. I haven't been talking about that as much, but machine-to-machine commerce, that's one of the core fundamentals here. So it's PayPal for humans and machines, the value exchange component. Visa, what is Visa? Visa is often referred to as rails, or you could think of it as the plumbing of the whole financial system. And people say they understand how a credit card works. Really, there's a lot of plumbing between that goes into the system, between that exchange that happens between the merchant and the customer, with the issuing banks, acquiring banks. And people get confused, they think payments is, and when they talk about payments, really they're talking about merchant acquiring and receiving payments, but there's also a payment provider side of the equation. The issuing with an issuing bank and a whole issuing bank and a whole, describe them often as two pillars: the acquiring pillar and the issuing pillar, and all kinds of technology, shopping carts, ID verification, escrow services. There's chargeback mechanisms, all kinds of policies and procedures and contractual relationships and fees, all that go into this thing to make it very easy for you to give your card to the merchant and the merchant to receive the money. We're all familiar with that, more so than with crypto and with Spock, but that's the basis. That's what we're talking about here. And so Spock provides built on the Solanas. You can think of Solana as the fundamental layer of the rails, and Spock, like many other tokens, built on top of that. And then the next component, which is very, very important to every financial system, especially when they become global or national and then move outside of little villages trading amongst themselves. But even then, we had to have a mechanism for trust, and that used to be very human and organic, a handshake and knowledge tribal knowledge of the family and the totems of that family, the crests, meaning crests, and the professions and everything that went into that family for generations. Everybody knew everybody in the village, right? Now, in modern times with more nomadic culture, we've had to make do with credit scores, and we've lost a lot of the touch. So I fixed that in my first major patent from 2013, which has been cited by 167 major credit bureaus, all the major credit bureaus, most big tech, most fintech, most big fintech companies in the world cite my patent as a basis for new things that are being developed for digital commerce, electronic commerce going forward to build on or go beyond the traditional credit scoring environment. So that's Neoscore, which I also expanded and extended with new patents to include trust between machines. Whole new venture that hasn't been talked about yet, that will be talked about a lot. That's what Neoscore provides. So we've got really an entire banking system in neobanks, and for many holders, you don't need to know all of that, just like you don't need to know how all of the mechanisms behind what makes your credit card work when you pay the merchant, and except when you get denied or things don't work, then that becomes a priority for you to figure out. So we move on to those are really to Brok, which is the face of that mechanism. So when you look at one of my posts that I posted today, has neobanks in the middle, and these Neoscore and the Ingram evaluation matrix, which is the other key piece for explainable decision making and artificial intelligence. Something that has been decision making needs to get more disciplined, and AI has basically forced us to become more disciplined about decision making. And so Neoscore is the Ingram evaluation matrix is simply a cognitive bridge between man and machine that makes decisions explainable and based on a fairly simple but robust, scalable model. So 4 categories with infinite subcategories, 49 usually main subcategories that cover most things in financial services, and that's it. That's your basis for that component or that pillar. So you've got the Neoscore, the Ingram evaluation matrix, all these things, and you've got Brok to keep track of all these things for you. So a banker can run a loan file through Brok, scrub the PII, the personal identifying information, get a report back that gives the reasons for approval or denial that can be explored in more detail, recorded, changed, exceptions managed, everything reported and auditable. So that's all baked into the patents to solve this really burning issue in banking. Again, folks that are investing in the token, just giving you enough, enough to know really that there is real utility here, and to know what stage we're at. So I'm going to talk about the stages of development. Now, this is something I haven't done before, okay? So we're moving through 5 different pretty clear phases. And this might help you understand where we are and sort of our valuation curve and what the progression may look like. So right now we're in phase 1, which is kind of the discovery mode still. Word is really just starting to get out. We haven't spent anything on marketing. We've had $0 on marketing to date. So we've been I almost rushed this project out just because I could see, because First off, because of the government regulations, that March 17th, as soon as that March 17th directive that came out to explain to and formalize for the world and for America, and specifically, I guess, that what a digital asset is, and that a digital asset or digital commodity is not a security. That document that came out from that I reference often from the Office of the Advocate for Small Business Capital Formation, from the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and the CFTC. That document, so that when the first one, so this is what I just pointed to. That's the one-page memo that came out April 28th, which is pivotal. And but before that, March 17th, that was the signal that I was waiting for to go formally after this, to be very serious about this. And also I recognized that it was going to be a race, and that was basically the starting gun, and we needed to go after this hard. So I launched as quickly as I could, got the 2 brand new from scratch professional websites built. First, the SPOCK site that is at I used my URL roningram.me/SPOCK, or just roningram.me. That will get you there, and that will take you. That's the most direct path to get SPOCK now. And there's many other ways to get it. Yeah, I didn't even put that on the list of accomplishments. We're on CoinGecko now. We're on Jupiter. We're on DEXA Screener. But all that from launching on Pump Fund, and we graduated to Pump Swap very quickly, actually, and we are so that gives us more liquidity, and so yeah, those are additional milestones that have been achieved in the last 45 days, and we got our application in, and it's in progress right now. I shared the receipts for CMC, the coin market capital, which is even more stringent than CoinGecko. I'm not sure which one. They're about neck and neck in terms of popularity, but we didn't appear. That was one important platform that we didn't appear on yet, and now we do. So that's a significant milestone as well. So all of these milestones are all in the discovery phase, where we are now. Also in this discovery phase, we did have 2 live events with basic demos in one live event, and the other one was more banking focused. So planting the seeds, getting SPOCK out there. Now it's part of the lexicon of machines. That was something that we did on day 1. I also skipped over that as accomplishment. We've been on Moltbook where the agents hang out for quite a while now, and we've been familiarizing agents with our token and the MBC 20 protocol, and all the parameters are in. There's actually a section in our white page that is addressed to machines, and that has all the things that machines are looking for, that bots, agents are looking for agentic machine-to-machine commerce. So that has all been accomplished and baked in. But so we're still in the discovery phase. All of that has been done. The conference where we had Tim Scott, the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, his person Colin Carr on the Senate Banking Committee as Tim Scott's leading staffer, and tremendous credentials and experience out of Tim Scott's office and the Supreme and the Senate Banking Committee. So that and CEOs and consultants from PwC and other top firms, all revolving around Neobank, the term that I coined. and I gave a presentation which I've shared here on X previously. You can find it. That basically took people through my book, Neobank: Navigating the Future of Banking, which I wrote 2 years ago, that actually anticipates a lot of the things that have happened in the last couple of years and that are still to come. And one of the main things that I said that had to happen, that happened, really, started with the Genius Act, maybe even before then, but the Genius Act was the first legislation that really started to pave the way. And then the directive March 17th, right? And now that momentum is continuing to build. Now we have Warsh, who has 30 crypto in his own personal wallet, who is now the incoming chairman of the Federal Reserve. That is a huge milestone for the industry. That should be on all the news on all the news tonight. I'm sure it will be. That is really big news. So that's all in the discovery phase. Okay, so live events, those are, but all free. In fact, paid, the speaking, that was a revenue generating event for neobanks, actually. And the ladies of Las Vegas event that I had, and that was an invaluable. Before I get to the next phase, which is utility, there's these 5 phases, right? That was so important, and that really kind of is a bit of a pivot, not a pivot, a real inflection point. Inflection point would be a good word to use for this project, because I was shocked at how difficult it was and still is. And I've been fuming about it a little bit, right? I've put out a couple of things already, and I'll put out more, and I'm going to be bringing this up with Tim Scott's office and the Senate Banking Committee, planning a trip to DC. And this will be, this is an important thing, because remember how there was the reputational risk that regulators were applying as a means of throttling or closing even accounts for some claimed that for political reasons. I'm saying claimed. I'm not saying that that's what happened or not. That's what the claims and the concerns were, and even Trump's family. And very influential people, wealthy people of means, who had their accounts shut down purportedly because of reputational risk. So that from the executive orders and so forth, that is no longer to be tolerated. But this new thing, I hadn't really seen anybody talking about this until I've brought it up, and now I'm going to be hammering on this. There is clearly an effort to throttle the influx of and create a barrier from funds that want from people. That's so impersonal to say funds that want to flow. No, people that want to, like the people that were in my house, in my home, high affluent, smart ladies, professionals who with private banking relationships, who were not being given access and were not able to spend and disperse and pay and transfer funds, their own funds for a legitimate project, the Spock project, or any other crypto. They were even having problems with Solana. It wasn't just Spock specific, it was crypto. So this is bigger than Spock. So this is why everybody should share this information and promote Spock as not just for your, forget about the ROI, just as from an activist perspective. So we need this project to get traction from that perspective, for it to get really big, lots of eyes on it. And however, I can't get ahead of we can't get ahead of the. I have to keep in mind. So I'm really fired up about this issue, with banks throttling access to crypto. I'm really fired up about that. I'm going to hammer on that. However, I'm not going to lose sight of Spock and Brok and the whole Neobank's project. That's the vehicle. That is the vehicle supporting that vehicle that will help all things. That's a tide that will help lift all boats, by supporting machine-to-machine commerce and explainable AI that will help encourage adoption of AI. It'll help all these things. All these things work together. So let's all work together. That's actually what Brok stands for, literally the name, Bankers Revolutionary Operations Kuritsu. And I encourage you to look up that word, but a Japanese concept of corporations that work is used for large corporations that work together to synergistically but cooperatively, so co-opetition, if you will, to make China an economic superpower. And they were successful, or make Japan an economic superpower, and they were successful with that. And so now's the time that we need coopetition between crypto projects, between rebel bankers, innovators, creators, venture capital, innovators and creators that want to improve, that want to experience a great singularity, that we want a favorable, benign singularity economy. And so we need to work together to do that, support valid, legitimate projects that have real utility behind them. And without a doubt, Brok is the expression in name and kind of that mission. So please join us and join the community, set your notifications for these broadcasts every second day at 6 o'clock. And let's drive this project, not just for the economics of this one individual product and for our project and for our own individual pockets, but for freedom and property rights. And one of the things that I also want to use this whole system, no, I'm deviating from the 5 phases. So that was all still the discovery phase, and we're not known yet. We're very, very unknown yet. We've only got 350 people from zero. So we're gaining ground quickly, organically, through word of mouth, through things like I had in my home. We have all kinds of newbies, which I'll get to in a second, that have been getting on board. So we're in the discovery phase. What's the next phase? Is the utility phase. And that's where we start doing live demos and pilots. And this will come in 4 waves, kind of related. It can't really come sequentially. They're going to be relatively concurrent because the Ingram evaluation matrix is just going to be so much easier to use if Brok is the interface. And that is going to make it so easy that not only bankers will be able to use it, it'll make it so that everyone will be able to use it for any kind of financial decision or question or strategy, even to the point of legal paperwork, filling out forms for businesses, for ZPEs, for entrepreneurs. I'm going to be partnerships that I'm working on that I'll announce when the time is right, stemming from my involvement in TechStars and Nevada Startup, which I've spoken very highly of before. And it occurred to me that entrepreneurs, they're really able. will make decisions instantly, and they have a tremendous amount of work, and a lot of them are already trying to be ZPEs without the tools. So Brok could help them be a ZPE and help them go from having to help delay hiring and maybe obviate the need to hire people and be able to grow more quickly, compound more quickly through using the agentic stack coordinated by Brok. So live demos and pilots in 4 concurrent waves. So that'll be the machine to machine. That'll happen first because we're already right there. There'll be machine to machine micropayments using the X402 protocol, and we've been seeding that ground for a while. So that is, and machines don't need a fancy interface. It can be pretty stripped down, code based. So that'll be happening that's the first thing in the utility phase. It's already underway, but there haven't been actual dollars transacted yet. Maybe a couple of test transactions. There have been some test transactions, but very early yet in that part of the utility. And then the IEM, explainable AI credit decisions. I've done demos on that already, but that needs to be more formalized, more automated, and tested more. So that's already in the testing phase. And the Neoscore, that I tested several times, but the new iteration for machines as well, that will happen first, and then that's imminent as well. That's very, very close as well. And yeah, those are the key utility points where we'll be getting into live demos and pilots. So that's phase 2. And I think that even with the first, so even in the discovery phase, we have quite a ways to go by getting the narrative ever more clear and simple. Like today, I gave you a new analogy, and keep coming back to me with what, if it doesn't make sense to you, from day one, we've been iterating to make it simplify and provide new analogies and new ways to make what needs to be explainable. And some of it doesn't need to be explained. It's also differentiated about how detailed we need to go and for whom, and just, getting the messaging and all of that was really still part of the discovery phase. But we're into the utility phase. And once that utility, though, is demonstrated, then that's a whole nother S curve starting. And just by when you see what's possible and when you see that it's real, we're already light years ahead of the projects that you see on Pump Fund. Many of them have gone to hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And most of which fail. But the ones that do succeed have gone on to hundreds of millions of dollars and billions. So, we've already got more substance than many projects that have become billion-dollar projects. So that is a fact. So we've accomplished an awful lot and have a lot to be proud of. So, but that when we demonstrate that next stage of utility, so where Brok goes and Spock go beyond the conceptual to deliverable and real dollars exchanging, and probably break even almost instantly, because of the model that we're utilizing. Is the hardware is not that expensive, but there's a lot of API costs and things like that, but we are very, very lean, operating as kind of at 10 FTEP, I would say right now. And our goal is to get to 100. And that'll also be when we get the utility function going. The first thing that happens actually before any of this gets shipped is I get to get neobanks up to 100 FTEP, where then we're able to handle the scaling. Because actually, we already ran into a little, a challenge with all of the people that we're trying to onboard. That has involved unexpectedly a lot of time troubleshooting, working with the different wallets, working with the different people that have been trying to get money into Spock. And here's a good angle to this, though, that people persevered. And in many cases, people, like, you see a lot of transactions that are, if you're looking at the transactional data of Spock, you'll see lots of transactions that are buys in the $400, just under $500 range. A lot of those are people that were looking to put in thousands of dollars, but hit up against this $500 limit. This throttle seems to be generally at $500 a week in some cases. So, so some people are fighting it, and I'm fighting it, and will continue to fight it. But in the meantime, people are excited and they're persevering. And even if they can only put in $500 a week, they'll put in $500 a week. So pretty good sort of pent up demand, if you will, for Spock from that whole community of newbies, of affluent newbies that are putting in as much as their bank will allow them to put in. So that's terrible, though, in a way, right? That was what so frustrating. It's like, you don't often get a second chance in business and retail. Marketers know you don't often get a second chance where people love your product so much that they keep trying after it didn't work the first time. And even if it's not the fault of Spock and it's all the intermediaries in between, most people will just say, I'm not going to bother, right? But the people that have spent the time to do due diligence on the team, on the concepts that we're talking about here, they are bought in, and that is providing a very strong demand side of the equation that has yet to be supplied. So that's good underpinning for future growth. And I like that because that increases the excitement and momentum and gets more awareness, so that we have a bigger voice and can advocate more effectively for the changes that need to happen in our economy and in the banking system. So that's all in the utility phase, the next wave. Wave 3 is finally where the professional marketing starts. And that has to happen, as I've said before, when my book comes out, which will also be helpful. It'll be helpful to have gone through all these iterations of trying to explain Spock and Brok and the singularity economy. The singularity economy was already covered, but Brok didn't exist in name at that point when I this here compelling, all the opportunities. A lot when the discovery is never end. Main thing, real momentum, having media or even mainstream media, like with my book, press releases, there are media coverage, book signings, all of that. There's quite a bit of splash around that, and Brok and Spock, neobanks are all going to be to that. So that's going to lift the project of the project. So that's the third, is the marketing. And that will include the segmentation strategy, verticals, primarily on crossing pretty well, tracking kind of the bio is lagging a bit. My Dexis results, they were fantastic, but we'll leave that. Now I get my blend, and we'll just drop the whole thing in the whole report in biohacking community. So the marketing, that's phase 3, that's wave 3, and of course we're gearing up for that as already, of course, as well, and testing ideas and ads and not ads, but just the little videos, video clips that we do and things like that, and just getting our branding strategy and all of that fully nailed. We have the branding strategy for neobanks, and a lot of it's there. So, but the spend, the marketing spend, that's wave 3, that's phase 3, and that's the beginning of another S curve. And then we get into sales, and sales includes licensing, which is talked about on the website. And there's conversations underway already about that. There's partnerships, conversations about that. There's a contract that's out there that's under review. There's an LOI that's signed, and with an institution, and those things will that isn't, and the whole system for sales and marketing, that's being built as not for marketing, but for sales and marketing, that's all being built as well, and by Brok, so that not when we build it, Brok is also utilizing and is involved in all of this, and can make all the lessons learned available to other businesses and entrepreneurs. So that's going to be really, really exciting. So, especially I think about the Nevada startup entrepreneurs and that group. I know all the programs as a graduate from all of their programs, know all their materials, and you could all think of this as the cheat codes for entrepreneurs, to really to accelerate through accelerators and find new ways of attracting non-dilutive funding, grants, and all of that I have experience with. All of that is baked into Brok and the knowledge base that is being uploaded as part of the canon for Brok. So sales, licensing, partnerships, and direct Brok access, that may actually be the biggest thing, and that wasn't originally a focus of the plan. That was considered to be later, but we have to be flexible. That's the beauty of a lean organization, is that you can adapt. We can adapt like David versus Goliath. That takes, we're like the speedboat versus the tanker. We can move and adjust very quickly. I'd actually compare us to a jet versus a tanker. So flying circles around it. So and keep in mind too, I have scaled billion-dollar projects before. Okay, so and this is really hard. I forget, a lot of people can't comprehend this, and actually that was one thing that I came away from talking to all the big, the consultants with the big consulting firms, and talking about neobanks that have huge budgets and thousands of employees. Many people are skeptical that a lean company can compete with that. And I forget that people even think that way, because I've been doing it for so long. Even when I did work for large banks, large companies, I thought like an entrepreneur, and would always try to, it was good training for my future, to do things to make high impact, low cost projects, to make it easy for the board to say yes and give me a green light, to give me the resources to launch new products and projects. And that's exactly the way that entrepreneurs need to think. So I thought that was my thought process. And I was actually developing the Ingram evaluation matrix, even way back in the day, as a way to calibrate and get boards on the same page, and so that I could have some sense of how a new project was going to be prioritized. And because sometimes it just seemed completely capricious, worst case scenario, or just undisciplined and knee jerk and just flimsy pattern recognition. A lot of lousy decisions that would be made, and also even decisions about how to make decisions. And so that was really, really good learning for me, that became the basis of the Ingram evaluation matrix, which I thought was important before AI and is now essential to create this cognitive bridge between machines and humans. And it's going to force humans to be a tiny bit more disciplined. It's not like they had to make a quantum leap. They just had to move incrementally. And now with AI, that allows a quantum leap with the Ingram evaluation matrix. So anyway, the sales and licensing partnerships and the direct Brok access, because I kept on making it simpler and simpler, and so simple. And now with Brok being the interface or the face that anybody can interact with and ask for advice, as complicated as how do we prepare for Q Day and make sure that our systems are quantum resilient, and what is the difference between quantum key distribution and dilithium, and who are the top vendors, any questions related to advanced topics like that, to a personal loan, and should you approve it or not, and why, right? So having made Brok that simple, the direct, in terms of the sales and licensing, that may be the direct sales of and there'll be a freemium model, so everybody will get access to Brok for free. And if they want to upgrade to long-term persistent near infinite memory, where Brok gets to know you and remembers your taxes from the last year and the previous year, and or can digest your taxes from 3 prior years and remember that and work on your taxes for the next year. And keep in mind, again, disclaimer here, neither I nor Brok are certified financial planners, accountants, financial advisors, lawyers, doctors, any of that. So all advisory and even testing level. But I will tell you one thing: it's having Brok in your pocket, going and visiting your banker or your broker or your lawyer even is going to give you an edge, and be respectful, right? But it's going to, and even your doctors, right? It's going, when we get into when the Ingram evaluation matrix is applied to health and other verticals, but initially the vertical is finance and banking. So anyway, licensing, partnerships, and direct Brok access. That is the fourth phase, and you'll laugh when you hear how the time gaps between these phases. I already gave you a hint; they're pretty much concurrent, right? But those are sort of the focus points, and the focus will shift from all of these things are being worked on basically, but the focus will shift to your. I just got a comment, funny one, Brok in your pocket. Okay, yeah, it kind of has a ring to it. If you've got Brok in your pocket, you're prepared. Be prepared with Brok in your pocket. It sounds kind of funny. So but when all of those 4 phases are engaged, that's when the real ramp up happens. That's when I would anticipate us achieving some of our goals. And I don't want to put the goal in the same sentence as that, because that might be a forward-looking statement. But fifth, somebody asked me, and I almost we've got a community in France, and love the support from France, and altcoins over there, doing a great job and surfacing some great ideas. And he was one of he or she, that group over there, they were one of the first to recognize what we were doing. And boy, whoever followed his advice, they've made out very, very well. They were one of the first sort of groups to recognize the value and merit of what we're doing here. But somebody from that group, they're critical too, and I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. And go ahead, ask me the questions that are, troubling you or whatever, and you'll see. I think you can see I can answer any question, and I will answer any question. And Brok is going to be of the same nature when unleashed. And but somebody asked when I was going to be done. When is Brok going to be finished? When is Spock going to be finished? Any innovator or creator out there, you'll know why I'm laughing, right? These things don't end, right? That's why I decided to break this down into milestones and phases, because the last phase is continuous improvement. And we ship, we learn, we keep making it better. And I'll never be satisfied with any of my creations. I will always find ways to improve them. And that's kind of what makes us dangerous, because we don't copy. Everything that we do is original. The word neobank is original. And that's why there's still a huge opportunity. I don't think that any of the current crop of neobanks have even done a very good job, even though they have billion-dollar market caps. And no offense, Chris Britt, you're fantastic. And no offense, SoFi, and I am envious of your results, I guess. And you've delivered real results. And however, I think that there are significant, we're not even in the first chapter of fintech. We're not even in the first chapter of a product category that close friend developed for the United States, and I launched internationally and was an early pioneer in as well, the whole debit card and mobile banking systems even. There's still a long ways to go. And in fact, in some ways with crypto, we've taken a step back. And when I look at the onboarding process and how clunky they are, there are tremendous opportunities to engineer, re-engineer, and streamline these interfaces, the onboarding processes, without compromising security, doing the right security at the right time. There's a tremendous amount of engineering that, and actually, the big neobanks, that's the main thing that they've done well, is to engineer that user interface, and a couple key basic features, and also communicating through social media and more modern marketing methodologies. But the products themselves. And SoFi is a bit different, because SoFi is one of the fintechs, one of the neobanks that have a full service offering. And interestingly, they have also the highest revenue per customer and more stickiness in America than most of the other providers. Chime actually has more customer accounts than Bank of America. Let that sink in. And so I think, in conclusion, we've come an awful long way in 45 days. I'm happy and I'm difficult to please. This is by far the best track that I've ever seen any project that I've led in my 25, 30 years ever. And that's including what became the core engine for Worldline that processes tens of billions of dollars per month on the acquiring side. That includes opening 10 million mobile accounts for debit along with debit card programs, and the whole user experience, the whole mobile app, and the debit cards that go along with them. Having worked with and seen the evolution of the first neobank, I would say actually, and this isn't, I'm surprised that they don't get more credit, but really the first closest thing to a neobank was Green Dot Bank, because they started as a fintech neobank, and then acquired a bank with a charter, and now they're a full service chartered bank, and that come from a neobank, and that's the three categories, right, of neobanks. There's full service chartered banks that acquire technology directly in-house, and ING Direct would be an example of that, way back. Vero, no, what are they called now? No, they're not. Yeah, but ING Direct, they changed their name, but that was a true neobank with a full service bank charter, fully digital. And so neobanks generally have one branch or no branches. I don't think the definition is really dependent on the number of branches, but it is tech forward, basically. A full service bank that's tech forward, that's the first category of neobank. The second category of neobank are most of them. So that's Chime and NetSpend and Revolut. Or NetSpend was acquired by Revolut, and all the numerous neobanks that have started with technology and then found bank partners. Green Dot is the progression of that, where a company like that buys the bank. But regulators up until now, I saw something like all of a sudden it's becoming a lot more relaxed. I think issuance of charters. For me, it took me 3 years to find it and 3 years to get approved to buy a bank. So it was very, very difficult. I'll tell you that story sometime if people want to know that, want to hear that narrative sometime. I'll share that process, but that's all changing anyway, so I'm not sure how relevant that is. But those are and then finally the third category is that's the one that's just happening. That's the one that the closest is never been articulated. I didn't fully articulate my vision intentionally until I patented it. So, and that was precipitated by a few things. So the data warehouses that Musk is talking about, or the data centers, you can call them data centers, but the compute in space. Let's just leave it at that. Simplify it down to compute in space. I actually was the first one to write an article about this topic and I wrote it December 7th. You can look it up both on Substack and on X. December 7th. No one had talked about this concept yet that I'm aware of. And then we heard a few rumors. And then in Davos in January, so following more than 6 weeks or so later, Musk announced that this was going to be his Manhattan project. This was the biggest. And now we have Terafab, and we have the merger of, and now we have SpaceX AI. And so that is, and you're going to have data centers in space. And that is, I'm not going to talk about this. I put out, that you can read it. I put out every once in a while, I mention something about it. I might have to pick up the pace on this though too, but my patent on the whole space banking model is, so it's very interesting to see how Musk is positioning the Terafab and this this space compute, which is a quantum leap in compute and energy availability. It completely services the requirements for that foreseeable, based on our usage today. That project will provide for all the energy and compute needed for AI and for Bitcoin and beyond. So, and that's just step one. That could be expanded and scaled to such a degree. It's amazing. It is truly transformational. Terafab is truly transformational. But that's why. So I after that, I decided that, okay, before I say one word about my interstellar bank concept, I'm going to put it in, not only in writing, I'm going to put it in a patent this time. So that's, and one of the key concepts there is to literally transcend the terrestrial law as well. And there is a whole different laws apply everywhere. Not unfortunately, I have tremendous respect for the law, but there's a continuum between policy, it starts at procedures and then policies, rules, and finally laws, and then immutable laws. There's laws and then there's laws, right? And there are laws everywhere, even in space. However, the laws are different. They more akin to maritime laws. And so there's a whole interesting thing about that. But that's an interesting read if you want to get an idea about what I'm planning for the not so terribly distant future. And finally, for those 5 phases that I talked about, those are all concurrent, and they're all happening very all within weeks, days, weeks, and months, right? Components of the utility are very close, days and weeks, and the marketing, weeks and months. And the other things, getting seriously engaged in the sales processes and scaling that up, that's probably weeks and months away as well. So we're talking all of this before the end of the year. And the goal is aspirational, not a forward-looking statement, but the goal is just to know, people know what the goals are, is $1, is to get a SPOC to $1 parity with the US dollar. That's a goal, not a forward-looking statement. I'm not an investor advisor. This is not a security. So thanks everyone, and please, the easiest place to start if you haven't gotten SPOC yet is roningram.me/SPOC, or just roningram.me, that URL. And if you wanted the details in the light paper, there's a light paper that's available that goes into all the specifics. That's at neobanks.com. No rush, no pressure. Questions, drop them or leave them in the comments. And we're building this the right way, one real step at a time. Make sure you always there's a lot of copycats surging again. And some things that are there's this one constant moon shot, I think it is, that keeps popping up. Don't click on that. It keeps on popping up on X. I think Rain's been doing a good job, and thank you for everyone that, my eyes and ears out there. And sometimes when spam slips in, for a few minutes, we take it down. But yeah, that seems to be recurrent on X. So I'll have to look at something programmatically if that persists. But I'll never click on things that I haven't posted or that look suspicious. And yeah, make sure you've got the real, true, official SPOC number. Starts with 76R29, and I publish the string quite regularly. And if you use the link to the website, you'll go right there. And yeah, and license. Although I say, we're not in the focused sales and marketing stages yet, but the licensing partnerships, if you have any thoughts on that, we are looking for, open to that. Not actively looking, but we're open to partnerships and licensing opportunities. And so don't infringe on the patent. Look into partnering with me with us as well. Instead, rather. Okay. So have a good night, everyone. We'll see you in a day after next, and at 6 o'clock, if you like. And it's always a pleasure. Live long and prosper.